Hello and welcome everybody to another episode of Pod Strickland. I'm your host, Shwin, and this is episode 551. I am joined, as always, by my co-host Stacy. That is at Stacy Patton 89 on Twitter. Stacy, how you doing?
Doing pretty well. Victory Tuesday for both of us, but I think it was a bigger one for you. So beat always good to beat Boston. So
yes, I do like beating Boston. It is fun to do that. It was that was a crazy game because about halfway through that first half, I was ready to just jump off a cliff. But you know, the Bills bailed me out, and it was a good day, and it ended up being a very, very fun day. And yes, the Eagles won a relatively uncompetitive game that was over like 3 minutes into the second quarter. But yeah, we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about the Knicks, and we're here to talk about their cup final that they have tonight against the San Antonio Spurs. But before we do that, I do have to make a few announcements. First being that Strickland has a YouTube channel where you may be watching this podcast. If you are not done so already, please hit like, subscribe to the channel, leave us a comment. That a huge help to us. Strickland also has merchandise you can find on our website at www.strick.land. There's a link that'll take you to our merchandise store. There's all kinds of cool stuff on there, like t-shirts, sweatshirts, hats, coffee mugs, water bottles, you name it, we got it. The Strickland also has a Patreon, which you can subscribe to. There are a number of different tiers. There's $6 tier that gives you access to Pod Strickland, this podcast that I host every Friday with Prez. You also get access to Takes from Out Exposed, podcast hosted by Andrew Steele, aka Doug, along with Zach Blatter, and you get access to the Strickland Discord, where the conversations never stop. For further tiers, there's a $9 tier that gives you access to Strickland, the pod that I host with YC, where we rant and rave about the Knicks more. You also get access to wonderful premium articles by our staff, and you get access to Strictly NFL, which you guessed it is a podcast about the NFL that is hosted by Constantine Metricos and Desmond Novak. There are further tiers, is $15 tier, $30 tier, $50 tier, and a $100 tier. Those come with a variety of additional benefits, like listening on a pod recordings, merchandise discounts, and even potentially co-host a podcast alongside yours truly one day, whether you choose to subscribe or not. None of this would be possible without you, and none of this would be possible without our sponsor, FanDuel. You can certainly get that, get the Knicks minus 2.5 on there. Jalen Brunson over 30 points, anything that your heart desires. Guys, if you're having issues with the video, I think you're probably watching on mobile. I'm not sure why it does this. It gives us this stupid thing. But if you watch on YouTube on your laptop or desktop or probably TV, it should be fine. I don't really know what to do with it. This is a StreamYard issue. There's nothing that we can control for this. For some reason, they've introduced this function, which fucking sucks. Nemo, I don't know what to tell you, man. It's not under my control. There should be multiple links for you to watch this. Even on the Strickland Patreon, I will put the actual link in here that I use where I can see myself and Stacy all in perfect
my glorious hairline.
Yeah.
Shout out to Greg.
Yes.
Pinto. Appreciate that, bro. I'll hit you up for Jalen Brown solutions.
Anyway, I'm gonna now post this in the comments. If this is a thing, try that. That should work. If it doesn't work, again, I'm not sure what to tell you. Okay. As far as the actual basketball is concerned, the Knicks play the San Antonio Spurs, and it's going to be quite a competitive game. I think this is a game that the Knicks. I think this is a game that the Knicks can obviously win. I mean, it's not really breaking any news. I do think that this is a tough matchup without Deuce McBride. San Antonio has two really, really good ball handling guards that can get into the paint, in De'Aaron Fox and Stephon Castle. Deuce McBride is the Knicks' best point of attack defender. Not having him is definitely a hit. I would even say not having Landry Shamet is a bit of a hit because he's probably a bit better at point of attack than a guy like Josh Hart or even Mikal Bridges at times. So not having those two guys offensively, we know what they bring, but also think defensively is a tough ask. I got to say, Stefan Castle is a player I was not high on coming into the season, or particularly at any point last season. He's looked great. He's looked really, really good so far this year. He looked fantastic against the Lakers in their Cup quarterfinal. I thought he looked pretty good against OKC. And then obviously on top of these guards, they have a pretty solid amount of shooting here with Devin Vassell, Champagny, even Harrison Barnes. Wembanyama obviously gives you shooting. And then they have Victor Wembanyama. So I think this is a very, very intriguing matchup. And I think it presents a lot of interesting problems for the Knicks, especially given the guys that they're out today. And the two keys I would say for the Knicks to win this game, as far as, what you would want them to impose upon the Spurs, I think it's vital that they win the possession battle. In particular, I think they need to win the rebounding edge in this game. The Spurs are the number one defensive rebound percentage team in the league, but the Knicks are a great offensive rebounding team. I think they have to decisively win that matchup to win this game. And then the other thing, and so that'll be, that's obviously a lot on Mitch, a lot on Cat, a lot on Josh Hart. Those three guys in particular, I think you need to get a lot out of them on the glass. And the other part of this game that I think, again, is in the Knicks' control, or should be in the Knicks' control, and if they can impose their will, I think it increases their chance of winning, is simply the pace. If the Knicks can make this a half-court game, I like their chances. I think they are a much better half-court offense than San Antonio. San Antonio really does their best damage when they're able to get out, be it off turnovers or misses or whatever, and use their athleticism, use their speed, use their pace, use their power to create havoc and gain advantages. And if the Knicks can get them in a half-court game, make it a slow down, grind it out affair, that benefits them. Jalen Brunson is by far and away the best half court. It's probably the best half court. He is the best half court creator in this game. I don't think it's particularly close. And he's also playing at a high level right now. He has been all throughout this kind of cup run. So, I'm very interested in this matchup. I will be watching it on a delay, a very big delay, because I have my soccer game today. But I think this is going to be a great game. And I'm very interested. I'm just very, very curious to see how the Knicks go about kind of attacking the Spurs. And, obviously you're not going to take them lightly. This is a team that beat OKC on Saturday, and they did it without getting any crazy shooting performances or anything along those lines. They also did it in a game where Wembanyama was on a minutes restriction. So this is not a team to take lightly. They have a lot of talent. They have a lot of speed. And they certainly have a lot of guys that can test the Knicks defense in ways that can definitely be challenging, especially given the guys that the Knicks have out.
Yeah, I think, a few things I would say there. With offensive rebounding, we'll see how Mitch. It's tough to know what you're going to get from Mitch these days. I think that I'm actually a little bit less. I'm less focused on the possession battle than you, because I think the Knicks will win shot quality. The Spurs have a lot of good defenders, but I think the Knicks have just really emphasized that. And, if they have a bad shooting night, that's just the way it bounces. But they are leaning more into that, even with being a really good offensive rebounding team. So I don't know if that's make or break. I think the way they used Wemby in against Oklahoma City is very interesting. He barely played for like the first 20 minutes. He comes in with a couple minutes left, and I looked at the score is 49-33. A minute later, it's tied, or like they were down 3. So, it just shows you how that is. They've done a good job of developing some of these players. You got Stephen Castle. Dylan Harper, very talented, and Fox has kind of fit in. But it comes down really to look, the last two times we played the Spurs, the Knicks were clearly the more talented roster, top to bottom. And one was a loss when Brunson put up 61, and the other was, they've played them more than that. But those two games come to mind. Christmas, right, where it was Wemby versus Cat. I actually think Cat did a really good job on offense against him, but Wemby at times is just an unsolvable problem. So I do think a lot of this comes down to, can the Knicks really capitalize in the first half? And some of that might be going away from shot quality because they're the number one defensive rebounding percentage team. I don't know what that comes down to when Wemby's not in the game. I would imagine it's a pretty significant difference. And you're going to get better shots at the rim. So for a team that you and I both want to shoot more threes, if they're going to rest Wemby for like the first 15 minutes or whatever, that's a time to attack more, right? I get why they're doing it. One, injury stuff, but also it keeps them out of foul trouble, which keeps you from getting in the penalty later in the game and keeps him from having to sit. I think that getting off to a really good start is important, and I would probably emphasize getting to the rim. And while you don't have, the Eiffel Tower there or whatever, well, I guess Rudy is the Stifle Tower, right? So, but he is an insane rim protector, even against a guy like Brunson. Those would be the things I would emphasize. I think on defense, I'm a little bit less worried. They have some quick guards, and those guys have given us problems, and Dylan Harper might have a good night as well. But, the Knicks have generally been connected. The Spurs are not a good shooting team. I would like to see a little bit of zone.
I disagree with that. They're 7th in the league in 3-point percentage this year. They can shoot.
What are the attempts, though?
I mean, that's a different question. They can definitely shoot.
Well, I mean, if they're being left open and they're hitting them, that's different than...
They're 17th in 3-point volume. They are, in terms of 3-point attempts per 100 possessions. And they shoot 36%, 36.5% from three. This is not a team that you can just leave them open.
I would play some zone though, because I'm not scared of Fox as a shooter as much, right? I'm not scared of Harper as a shooter as much, right? I'm not scared of even Keldon Johnson or they can knock them down, but I think your better bet, especially when Wemby's in the game, is to zone. That's kind of my feeling.
Well, you want to get them shooting more, for sure. That's obviously, and the Knicks defense is geared and has done a better job, especially in the half court. The transition stuff against Orlando was very, very frustrating. But I thought in the half court, they did a good job, relatively speaking, of restricting shots at the rim, shots in the paint. For the Magic. And, some of that we can credit to Paolo Banchero, who maybe has the worst shot selection of all time. But the Knicks have generally done a better job of that lately. I'm not saying they're perfect or that everything is cleaned up, but they've done a better job of maintaining integrity in their gaps and forcing teams to make that pass out, to kick back out to 3-point shooters. And, so far the Knicks have shown that they are largely willing to, live or die with however that trade-off works. But if they can restrict the paint attempts, I think that's definitely what you want to do against San Antonio. But again, this is not a scenario where your job is done at that point. They have guys that can shoot the ball. So you need to be disciplined in closing out to them. And disciplined in not just making sure that your contests are good and they're not just getting clean looks, but also that your contests are under control. And that you're not just giving up a drive and kick, and now I'm in the air and he drives back again into the paint. You don't want to be in constant rotation. I think that's where the Knicks generally have their biggest issues defensively, is when they are just constantly being put on tilt. So I think that's pretty key. I just really worry about the guard matchups here, not in terms of, I'm not worried about Brunson. Maybe he has a bad shooting game, but I'm at a point with him where I don't really think anybody is like a Brunson stopper or anybody has some secret to defending him or stopping him. Like I've seen all kinds of defenders get thrown on him, and over time he figures it out. Right? Dyson Daniels was the Brunson stopper, and then Brunson dropped whatever he did, like 48 on him, whatever last year, including insane game winner. Asar Thompson, we all saw what happened there. Like he's just proven enough to me where if he has a bad shooting game, it's a bad shooting game. So be it. But I am worried about, I'm assuming Brunson, they'll hide him on Barnes, which is fine. Like if the Spurs want to try and attack Jalen Brunson with Harrison Barnes, that's completely fine with me. I will once again stress that I really, really, really do not have any interest in seeing Jalen Brunson in any type of help defensive position and would prefer if he just stays on his man because he has zero impact as a help defender. That's just never going to be a thing he does well. But if they want to attack him, in terms of just trying to mismatch hunt him with Barnes, that's a win for the Knicks. I think that's a massive win for the Knicks. But if they get him switched on to Castle, if they get him switched on to Fox, I think those can obviously be tough matchups for him. So I'm very interested to see how the Knicks go about defending things in terms of screens, be it typical pick and rolls with a guard and a big man, or guard screens, guard wing screens, which I think they will do to try to get Brunson matched up. So I'm very interested to see how the Knicks go about doing that. I'm also very interested to see how Mike Brown manages the rotation, because I thought Jordan Clarkson was fucking awful in that Magic game, and I thought he was awful in ways that he has now been pretty bad at for a little stretch here for the Knicks. And I understand they're shorthanded, right? You don't have Deuce, you don't have Shamet, so like you kind of need to play Clarkson. I just wonder how tight the minutes are going to be. And in that Orlando game, I think at some points he had I don't remember the exact time, but he did have some looks with Brunson and Kolek and Clarkson on the floor. And it was like, okay, like, I guess I understand that you're trying to buy some minutes here, but like, that's not a great 3-man group. Like, I'm very curious to see how Mike Brown coaches this game in terms of how tight are his rotations, how tight are his lineups. And if we're, putting cards on the table here, like, quite honestly, I thought Tyler Kolek has been he has been now better than Jordan Clarkson for a little stretch here, more impactful. And that's not to say obviously that he's perfect or anything. He's obviously got plenty of his own flaws, but I don't see him being destructive in the ways that Clarkson was. I thought Clarkson was just totally not prepared for the moment against Orlando. And, the Spurs have some guys that can get into you physically, challenge you on the perimeter. Clarkson's handle has not been sharp and his decision making has not been the best. So you just kind of, I don't know. I'm curious to see how he manages that. Mike Brown, anyway, the perimeter rotations. And we'll see what he does with Yabusele, man, because Yabusele obviously had whatever it was, 2 minutes, 3 minutes in that first half against Orlando, and he was terrible. He was a step behind the play each time. But they don't really have much front court depth right now. And so I think he's going to get a chance. We'll see how he responds. And one of the biggest things for me, and this goes back to why I think the Knicks need to win the possession battle, and he's key to this, is Mitchell Robinson. They need Mitchell Robinson to deliver like an actual Mitchell Robinson game, not just get the offensive rebounds and extend possessions and all that. And he had some nice blocks against Orlando, but he has not been at the level we expect from him defensively over the course of this season. And he's been jumpy at times. I feel like he's jumped on pump fakes more than I can. That was something that he has notably been more disciplined about over the last couple of years. This year, it feels like he's a little bit more jumpy than he has been. They need him to stay out of foul trouble. They need him to be effective in his minutes, and they need him to be able to anchor the defense at the rim. And he's going to be in positions at times in this game where he's going to get switched out onto a guard be it Fox, be it Castle, be it Vassell, whoever. And in those moments this year, he has not been able to really contain the ball and keep guys out on the perimeter. Um, he's been liable to getting blown by and giving up shots at the rim. So this is a big spot for him. I think that in a lot of ways, I might say that he's even the key to the game, or maybe the X factor is perhaps the best way to put it. Because I do have some faith in Karl Anthony Towns, like, and you know, the Towns thing is what it is. I just think there's always a pathway for him to positively impact the game, even if he's shooting the ball like crap, which he hasn't done obviously right now for a while. And Mitch is just a guy where, look, the Spurs coming in again, they're the number one defensive rebound team in the league by defensive rebound percentage. You asked for the numbers. They're 77.6 defensive rebound percentage with Victor Wembanyama on the floor. They are at 76.4 defensive rebound percentage when Victor Wembanyama is off the floor. 76.4 is what the Knicks are at as a team overall over the course of the season. So with or without Wemby on the floor, this is a very good defensive rebounding team. If you can tilt that and impose yourself on the glass, I think the Knicks have a really good chance of winning this game. But I do think that is it's very much on the shoulders of Mitchell Robinson and Josh Hart. And then look, with the Josh Hart thing is we'll see. Because the other reason why I feel that Deuce McBride and Shamet are such big misses in a game like this is I think it's safe to say that none of us exactly I feel better about Tyler Kolek. I'd be lying to you if I said I feel really like positive every time he steps on the floor, and I'm confident that he can deliver in a game like tonight. But it is nice to see that he's playing better, but I don't have a high level of confidence in him in a high stakes game like this. Jordan Clarkson, I have no confidence in right now. And without those two guys, without any confidence in those two guys, it just means that you're going to have to lean on Josh Hart a lot. And that's fine. Josh Hart's really good. He's playing some of the best ball of his career. He's definitely playing some of his best balls in New York Knicks. But we know what the deficiencies are in his game. We know how teams defend him. We saw Orlando do it. We saw Orlando not give him respect as a shooter. And credit to Josh Hart. He was taking the threes. He took shots when they were there for him. He didn't connect. But you need to take those shots. We've talked about that endlessly. He's going to get another chance tonight. The Spurs are not going to be running him off the line. They are not going to treat him like he's some highly threatening shooter. Those looks are going to be there for him. And regardless of the results of how he shoots the ball, I do want him to keep shooting. But given that it is like, you know, an elimination game, it's, you know, like Mark Jackson says, right? It's a make or miss league. So, yeah, I just think that, yeah, I'm very curious, I guess, just to see how this all works out. But I think Josh Hart, Mitchell Robinson, those two guys, in a lot of ways, I feel like they can swing certain areas of this game in the Knicks' favor that would benefit everyone. Obviously, Josh Hart, if he can make some threes, but both those guys on the glass, if they can generate extra possessions, that's been a huge boon for the Knicks this year. You know, on top of having great talent offensively and guys that are shooting well and having really solid shooting seasons, they've been winning the possession battle. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think POA defense, point of attack defense, even beyond the Spurs guards, this is just a team that doesn't have a ton of it. So that's part of what makes Deuce very indispensable. And not only it's a ripple effect, right? Because we talked about this. When Deuce is at the point of attack, or even Shamet, it allows Josh Hart to create events off ball. Obviously, allows Bridges and OG to create events off ball. So it kind of trickles down to the rest of the roster when you're missing a guy like that. So those are I'd say Deuce is a role player, but it obviously has a very big impact. I think that's a good point. I think it's really interesting that defensive rebounding doesn't really change with or without Wemby. And
Cornette's been really good for them.
Yeah. Once a Knick, always a Knick, right? So it's I still think I think the Knicks are going to win the shot quality battle. Um, the Spurs are hitting them when they're open, but without Wembanyama, when I watch this team, they don't generate a whole lot of great looks. They're going to muck it up a little bit, which is not something we haven't seen. We've seen that is kind of Orlando and Detroit's MO. But I think if the Knicks stick to their game plan, get open shots, I don't think really, especially with Wemby out of the game, I don't think there's really anyone on the Spurs that can take Brunson out of it. I think Stephon Castle's a good defender. I don't think he's at that level yet. Dylan Harper's still a rookie. I've never been impressed with Fox's defense. So I think the Knicks, if they win the shot quality battle and shoot at a reasonable percentage, like that to me is the most important thing. Beyond that, I would say, on defense, I still would zone quite a bit. Not just because of 3-point shooting, but also because, especially with Wemby out, or with Wemby in, making guys make plays in the middle of that zone, make them pass, those kind of things, get them to stagnate a little bit, prevent them from getting downhill. That to me is the most important thing. If you can keep this team out of the paint, and if you can keep this team out of the paint, and the Knicks can execute an offense the way we've seen them do, I'd be pretty confident.
Yeah, I mean, I'm over the course of a series, I feel pretty great about the Knicks' odds of beating the Spurs. Obviously, it being a one-off game, it's one game, so it's a different thing. And again, like I do think the Knicks' injuries are, I mean, very specifically, I think Deuce McBride's absence is huge because he is their best point of attack defender. In some ways, you could argue that he's maybe their only point of attack defender. And without him available and without Shamet available, the reason I brought up Josh Hart is Josh Hart is going to play a lot. And that means when Wemby's on the floor and Josh Hart's on the floor, they're going to put Wembanyama on Josh Hart. And he's not actually going to be on Josh Hart. He's going to be hovering around the paint, doing Wembanyama things. And that obviously makes life harder for Brunson. It makes life harder for Cat. Credit to Josh Hart. I think he's done a much better job this year of, at least so far, of punishing teams for treating him with that type of disregard, I guess. But without Deuce, without Shamet, you don't have that option to really go 5 out. And that feels significant in a one-off game like this. Can Mitchell Robinson change that equation? Can the Knicks be effective going double big potentially more than they have? I think that's interesting to consider. I thought the double big looks against Orlando, especially the one in the fourth quarter, I think started the fourth quarter, if I'm not mistaken, was really, really good. I thought it was very effective. The Knicks, it felt like to me anyway, that they really kind of took control of the game in that moment. This might be a decent matchup to try that out. I'm probably a little bit more. I think I respect the Spurs shooting a little bit more than you. And I think they have guys that on the perimeter can maybe take advantage of having a big like Karl-Anthony Towns or Mitchell Robinson on them in moments. But this is not like you're not playing. It's not like they have Kevin Durant at the 4 or something, right? They have Harrison Barnes,
biggest bum in
guys
history,
like that who are, yes. But they don't. So I think you can use your brawn against them, and maybe and not feel like you're at risk of being punished on the defensive end of the floor. So I just think this is fascinating for Mike Brown, maybe more than any of the players, even just to see how he manages all of this. How he what does he scheme up, right? Over the course of a series, I think in a large part, the biggest thing a coach can do is just kind of play the best lineups as much as he possibly can. and find what his best lineups are and go to those. But in a one-off game, I think the game plan itself takes on a heightened importance, and it's probably the scenario that I don't know if I would say tells us the most about a coach, but it can definitely tell you something about their ability to swing a game tactically. So I'm just so interested to see how Mike Brown manages it all, because I think he's done a good job, obviously so far early this season, and he's done a good job in these cup games throughout. But you know, a final against a fully healthy Spurs team that has Victor Wembanyama back, looking like he never missed time. That's definitely that's a challenge. And
I
so,
mean,
how
it'll
does he
probably be a
respond to the
playoff
challenge? How does
field.
he take this?
It'll, I mean, you
Yeah,
would
yeah.
say
I mean, I thought the Orlando game was a playoff field. The other semifinal with the Spurs and OKC, that was a playoff field. I think most of these cup games in general, even the group stages, maybe they're not exactly to playoff standard, but I think you can sense the players kind of rising to the occasion, treating it as a different thing almost to the actual regular season itself. So I do think you get higher intensity. I also think that the refs do or have done a better job of letting kind of allowing for physicality in these cup games. So yeah, I think it will definitely have a certain feel to it.
I think that's I think that's going to be. I think that's something that's the last. I don't want to say the last open question for Mike Brown, but a pretty significant one, right? Like, what is it going to look like in the playoffs? Do you have your finger on the pulse at all times? Um, I would say that you know beyond the things you touched on. Um, how would you? I think we've ignored the Wembinfant in the room. Wembafillant, Wembelephant. We've ignored. What is your? Do you double? Do you? You know, are you boxing one? I don't like. Do you have any ideas of how they might approach Wemby? Who they? Do you put OG on him maybe to see if I don't think the strategy that worked on KP with putting Marcus Smart on him would work with Wemby. Wemby's just a kind of evolution of that type of player. Um, do you put a guy like OG on him and hide Cat somewhere else or Mitch somewhere else? Curious how you would approach that specific matchup, because that does ultimately, you can talk all about the team as a whole, and they are a good team, but if you can slow him down, that is, I would imagine that's going to be priorities 1, 2, and 3, right?
I don't know. It's he's obviously great. He is going to be, I mean, health permitting, he's going to win MVPs, defensive player of the years and all those things. He's a one of one talent. I don't think anybody's denying that. But I don't know that you need to. I would not be like super eager to start throwing double teams at him. In a lot of ways, I think that opens yourself up to making them more dangerous as a team. Uh, Again, he's an incredible talent, but is he somebody that you feel like? I think if you make him a scorer, that's probably the best thing you can hope for. Now, how you go about doing that, obviously, you're not. If you start just giving up straight line drives to the rim, yeah, that's not going to cut it. Who would I put on him? I don't think the Knicks have the luxury of putting OG Anunoby on him, at least not to start the game, because of the fact that they don't have Deuce McBride and they don't have Shamit. Like, they're going to need OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges to defend guys like, again, Stephon Castle and De'Aaron Fox and Dylan Harper. That's where their attention will need to be focused. And I think Karl Anthony Towns, to me, he's playing the best defense certainly he has since he joined the Knicks. And maybe of his career, he's actually playing pretty good defense right now. And I think you have to trust him. I think you have to challenge him. He has to accept that challenge. He has to be put in a situation where you put him on Victor Wembanyama. Look, if he picks up an early foul or two, maybe then you revisit it. But I think he has good. This is a decent matchup for him in the sense of Wemby's awesome, but Wemby's not some like overpowering brute kind of post up big. He's more of a, he's in that kind of family of bigs where kind of similar to Cat, where they like play more like a wing style offensively than say somebody like Jokic, who's just going to be on the block so much and post up and all those type of things. Obviously, Jokic does more than go on the block, but you get my point. So I think you have to put that on Cat. I think you have to challenge him and see what he can give you. Because if you're going to try and start hiding Cat, you're already going to be, hiding Brunson in some capacity. I just think it's asking way too much. You need him to step up here. He needs to have a good game. He needs to carry over. I was so impressed with Karl-Anthony Towns. I thought after that game on Saturday, the way he conducted himself throughout the game, he did not kind of get caught up in some of the stupid mental battles that can get the best of him at times. He did not respond to, or he did respond, but he didn't respond stupidly, I should say, to some of the overt physicality of Wendell Carter Jr. and these guys. He straight up put Wendell Carter Jr. He drove him back multiple times, basically put him in the weight room. He was fantastic. I thought he just played a really, really solid game. And that was good. But Wembanyama is a different beast. I don't think you're not going to be able to just run into him and overpower him and finish at the rim with ease. So I think that'll be interesting to see how Karl matches up there. But defensively, yeah, like I think you want to make Wemby put the ball on the floor. And I think somebody mentioned this in a comment. This is JK11536 says, I thought Thunder did a good job sending help on Wemby's drives. He was turning it over a lot, driving into traffic. I agree. I thought they did a good job in that game of that. And, we'll have to see how the Knicks go about doing things. But I would just be very, very, I think when you send help on him, you want to send help once he puts the ball on the deck. You don't want to send help when he's just standing still, faced up, and can kind of see over everything. I mean, he's so fucking tall as it is. If you're just giving him that advantage, I think he'll make you pay. But I think you need to start sending help aggressively when he puts the ball on the floor. And obviously, on top of sending help, then you need to make sure your rotations on the perimeter are on a string. So we'll see how they go about doing that. But I think you put Cat on him. I saw somebody else mention here. I think it's Sumith Chagmohan says that they need to run the double big lineup. I agree. They need to run the double big lineup. I think that will be necessary. It also wouldn't surprise me if the Spurs even try some double big stuff with Wembanyama and Kornet at various points of this game. So you're going to have to do that. But it's not as simple as stop Wemby, stop the Spurs. They have other guys. They have talent. Like I mentioned, Stephon Castle, he's a guy I was not high on coming in to the season. But he's stepped up in a huge way. He's playing really, really well. De'Aaron Fox, never been my favorite player. He's playing well right now. And even, whatever I will say, but, whatever my ultimate thoughts are about Fox, like he's obviously a talented player, and again, we're talking about one game here. He can obviously go off. So the Knicks don't have the luxury of just like selling out on Victor. They have to account for other guys. So it's honestly maybe a bigger reason why I would not be trying too much super aggressive, exotic stuff, to combat him defensively. I think you need guys to be able to hold their own in a lot of ways. Like, be it Cat, be it Mitchell Robinson, be it OG at times, whoever, they're going to have to step up. Stopping Victor Wembanyama is probably, it's like Jalen Brunson, right? It's like you can't really stop Jalen Brunson. You're just trying to make his life as hard as you possibly can. But Victor, if Victor goes off, then Victor can go off. It is what it is. But yeah.
Yeah, I would. So, I mean, you mentioned you don't want their 3-point shooters to get hot. Um, I guess the other question is, where are you at on Wemby's processing, right? If you can disguise, if you can, and it's not when the Knicks are sending doubles or when the Knicks have guys in passing lanes, they do have two of the most talented guys at both of those things, right? So trying to make a good read and getting it, these are split second differences. You got Mikal Bridges in the lane, you got OG in the lane, you got Hart, who has great anticipation, even if not the same skills. The Knicks have some of those advantages. I mean, and they've had success even against Jokic in the past, right? Where we've talked about this a lot. They've done a good. I mean, it's not like they ever, like you just said, right? They don't shut down Jokic, but they're able to force turnovers. Most teams, what you just said, right? You do not want to double Jokic because it's way more dangerous as a passer. I don't know if Wemby is that, and I'm curious if you think that he is. I'm not saying you have to think he's Jokic, but where are you at on his processing? I don't think he's Randall. I don't think he's Jokic. So where on that spectrum is he? And also, is it maybe a little bit of a different equation for the Knicks because what they excel at really is, guys playing passing lanes and all that. That's what they have the personnel for.
Like I said, I think his processing for his age is obviously, it's great, given kind of where he's at in his career. He's not Jokic. He's not that level of processor, which, again, I guess that's not really a fair thing to compare him to because Jokic is a crazy processor.
But I would say it's better than Randall, for example, right? So,
yeah, I think so, but Randall's really good at drawing doubles and kicking out and generating corner threes and stuff like that. I think Wembanyama has really, he's definitely a plus playmaker for a big. But like I said, I think you have to be smart about when you send help at him. You can't just start showing bodies as soon as he catches the ball. Because he can see over you, right? He can see over anybody. So you make the game too easy for him. I think when you show your hand so quick, you have to do it once he puts the ball on the deck and gets going. That's when I think you want to send help, be aggressive, swipe at the ball, whatever. And he can be a little turnover prone in moments like that. But, it's all about the timing and it's all about how you execute. And yeah, I think that's the big thing. And then the other part of this is look, this is why I think Deuce McBride's a big miss in this game is we'll see how Josh Hart shoots. I trust him actually at the point to just keep shooting. I think he's shown that he is at least willing to do that. But if he doesn't hit those shots, at a certain point, that just it allows Victor to stay in the paint. And it allows the Spurs to kind of use one of their wings on Cat and do all those things that we know the teams like to do. If you can't make Wembanyama get out of the paint, that's just very tough. And I don't know how much. One, we don't even know what Victor's minutes are going to look like, right? Is he going to start? Is he going to come off the bench? Is he going to be on a minutes limit? I think he will be on a minutes.
He came in, but he played basically the entire second half against Oklahoma City. So he comes in late and they just second half load it, which is an interesting strategy, but that's what I saw in the Oklahoma City game. So.
Yeah. That's what I saw too. But so we'll see if it's similar to that. Then maybe you can work things around. I really do hate to make this about Josh Hart because I think he's been fucking really good this year and has kind of taken a step in ways that I think everybody felt like he had to for this team to get to where it hopes to go to. But I do think they're going to make this a central part of their game plan to basically treat Josh as a non-shooter and dare him to beat you. And with Deuce McBride out and Shaman out, there's not really anybody that's going to take that you're going to play over Josh Hart, right? If that becomes a problem. So it really does come down to some extent. Can you shoot the ball? Can you be a threat without the ball? Can you be a threat? So, maybe you can go screen for Cat and open him up, and take advantage of the fact that you're a free man effectively because Wembanyama's not paying attention to you. There's a lot of stuff that he can do and that he has done effectively this year. But yeah, it should be. It's again. I just think it's a big spot for him. It's a big spot for him. It's a big spot for Mitch. I think those two guys have a lot on their plate and have the chance to swing this game for the Knicks on the margins, and we'll see how that goes. But yeah, it should be a great game. I'm definitely looking forward to this.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting. I do think they need to pull him out of the paint. I think that the Christmas Day game last year, I thought Cat got in foul trouble, and I think that is something we haven't talked about, but that is something to watch because Wemby is capable of getting him in foul trouble. But I think on the opposite side, I think on offense, he veteraned Wemby a few times that game, right? Wemby had an amazing performance. He had 42 or something. But Cat had 21 in not that many minutes. He was effective getting to his spots and using pump fakes, and I don't know how much Wemby has adapted since then, and it might be just it might be a matter of time. But I think Cat did a good job. I actually really liked his performance besides the fouls. Yeah, how was the play besides that, Mrs. Lincoln? But I liked Cat's performance and his decision making for the most part last Christmas Day. And I think that that's the matchup to watch. I don't think any of their guards are going to really have an answer. They have some tough perimeter defenders. Brunson has just been on fire. I expect that to continue. We saw what happened with Bridges last year. He's always the X factor. I think the way he's been playing, I wouldn't be too surprised if he's able to replicate that. What do you make about the bench minutes? I guess you're going to have Deuces out, right? We talked about Clarkson versus Kolek. Yabu hasn't been particularly effective. We're waiting for that breakout game, but right now it looks like the other shoe's not going to drop. I'm curious how much of a role you think Huckporty plays in this lineup, especially if they're going to play a lot of Luke Cornett and you need some more size. How do you see because San Antonio has some talented players and they have some depth, but I think these are both probably some of the weaker benches among contenders or playoff teams.
I would say I expect Mike Brown to be running a pretty tight ship today. I do not think you're going to see any extended bench minutes outside of guys who are going to play. So just for comparison's sake, the Knicks played Orlando, obviously, in the Cup semi. The minutes off the bench were 4 for Yabusele, 17 for Mitch Robinson, 13 for Jordan Clarkson, and 16 for Tyler Kolek. I think you have to give Yabu some minutes just because you need to put bodies out there. So I think he'll get a chance. We'll see. Hopefully he has a better showing than he did against Orlando. But aside from Mitchell Robinson, I don't know how much he's going to trust these guys. Clarkson has just been bad for a while now. And Kolek, he's definitely playing better. I think he deserves a ton of credit. But do you trust him in a moment like this? Do you feel confident in giving him? He played 16 minutes again against Orlando. Do you feel confident giving him that same type of minutes load in this situation? I don't know. I'm not sure. I think it could go either way. Maybe if he's playing well, like he did against Orlando, then obviously that would change things, and you feel more confident and you feel comfortable giving him more burn. But what happens if he gets off to a slow start whenever he checks into the game? Does Mike Brown cut his minutes entirely or what? Because that's an interesting thing to consider. I mean, that's effectively what he did with Yabusele, right? He was just like, okay, you were really, really bad. I'm good. You can go back to the bench now. But I expect it to be a tight rotation, man. Other than Mitch, I don't even know that any of these other guys is guaranteed to play 12 minutes or anything like that. That's how tight of a rotation I think it's going to be. he has 6 guys that he absolutely trusts right now. The 7th guy is Deuce McBride. The 8th guy is Landry Shamet. We know those 2 guys aren't playing. So, I just don't. I just think it's hard for a coach in a stakes game to be completely comfortable giving guys minutes who you don't have total trust in. And it's very safe to say he definitely doesn't have total trust in Jordan Clarkson or Kolek or definitely not Yabusele.
So you don't think we're going to see Pacom Dadier or Mo? Well, someone did ask about Mo Diawara minutes. Is there a chance, he just gives him a shot over Yabu, or is today not the day? Or
I mean, if he didn't try against Orlando, why would he just try today?
Things change. I mean, I don't know if you remember. God, I know this is your favorite part of Knicks history, but the Linsanity thing happened. The first time he played was not that Nets game. He played the day before against Boston. He came in before Tony Douglas in the first half, and he sucked.
Again, it's
a
regular season
right?
game.
Yeah, but that's my point.
It's a regular season game.
So you're ascribing a lot of importance to this NBA Cup game, because I do think there's some disparity.
I don't personally, to be completely honest, like I would love if the Knicks win. I would like them to win. I don't think if they lost, I'm not going to be like devastated and brokenhearted or heartbroken over it. But I think they care. I mean, they're treating it like it. Look at just look at the minutes from the Orlando. Just look at the minutes from the Orlando game. OG Anunoby 40 minutes, Karl Towns 37, Bridges 15, Brunson 39. That's telling you that they care and that it matters to them and that they want to win.
Tibbs came back.
Everything these guys have said. Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with it. I'm fine with it. Like, if it matters to your players, and it clearly does matter to these players, I think for most teams, it seems like the cup gets guys going. If it matters to them, then yeah, you have to coach it like it matters to them. You have to coach it with the stakes in mind. And, I don't know how much people put in, I don't know how much I put into like the idea of winning is a good experience and like this would be a launching pad for the rest of the season or anything. I don't buy that. I don't think it's true. We've seen the last 2 cup winners not really have great seasons following winning the cup. But I do think that it is, once you're here, once you're in a final, you have to try to win it. Like, that's just how it works. And the money is nice. We know that these guys, there's a bonus online on available to the winner, as well as I think it's $500K. That matters. Like, and maybe that sounds, however you feel about it, like, because we know guys like Brunson and Bridges and whatever, they make plenty of money where 500,000 isn't necessarily a huge game changer for them, but that's not the same for everybody, right? That's not the same for a guy like Dadier or Diawara or Huck Porty. Right. It's different. And I don't think I'm ascribing some high level of importance to it. I think that's the reality of it. It's a final. They're going to try to play it to win it, and they want to win it.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to say you're just doing it. I was trying to get your framework of how you're evaluating it, which makes sense. I guess the NBA Cup, no one knows what it means, but it gets the people going, right? It's provocative. I think that is, on that note, right? We have talked about hanging up Melo's jersey. If the Knicks do beat the Spurs tonight, would you hang a banner at MSG?
Yes, you hang a banner. I think the Lakers did, the Bucks did. You're going to hang a banner. It's fine. I don't know why
Lakers
anybody.
have
40
million banners, though. Like, so it doesn't. Yeah, really
but doesn't
matter.
that make it? But doesn't that make it more like? If they're going to put up a banner, why the fuck wouldn't the Knicks put up a banner? Of course, you should put up a banner. The NBA wants this to be big. Okay, so you want it to be big, then you have to celebrate it. It should be like a celebrated achievement. And I will. I think beating the Spurs would say something. They have beaten the Thunder. They have beaten the Rockets. They have beaten the Nuggets on their path to getting here. I think somebody also mentioned that. Someone mentioned that in the comments also. Like, this is a team that looks really good. I think they're ahead of schedule. I thought they were obviously in good shape coming into the season. I did not think they would be this good this fast. I was wrong. I think they are this good this fast. They are capable of being a postseason problem. Wembanyama obviously has a level in him that very, very few players have. When he's healthy and on the floor, he's probably the best defensive player in the league. So, like, yeah, I think if the Knicks win a real high stakes game against a team of this caliber, yeah, it would matter. I think it would look really good for the Knicks to do that, especially with the way that I think a lot of NBA media has dismissed them early on in this season. So yeah, I would winning would be great. It would be great, and I think that I think this team wants to win it. Everything these guys are saying speaks to me that they want to win it. Now, again, as we saw, just because you lose doesn't necessarily mean it like you're done either. Last year, OKC famously lost the Cup final, and they just went on to go win the NBA championship. The year before, the Pacers lost in the Cup final. They went on to the Eastern Conference Finals that year. So, like, your season's not over if you lose this or anything like that. But once you're here, yeah, I want to win it. I would like for the Knicks to win it. It would be very nice. Although, again, look, and I guess the benefit is if you don't win it, it doesn't count really against you in any way, shape, or form. So, yeah, we'll see.
Can I use an analogy actually here?
Yeah.
I'm curious. Is the NBA Cup, could it be like the Olympics for top tennis players? Where, like, you don't remember the fact that Federer never won the gold medal, but you do remember, or I think he won it in doubles, but you do remember
he did win in doubles.
Guys. What?
He did win in doubles.
Yeah. So, I mean, if a player, like, it was a big deal for Djokovic to win the gold medal, right? If a player doesn't win the gold medal, it matters to them, but not as much to the fans, as much as Wimbledon or the other Grand Slams. Is that a good comparison for the NBA Cup? Like, it matters a lot to the players, but it's also kind of more of a check for us. Check box. Sorry, I wish we got a check. Right?
I mean, I don't know. The NBA Cup is obviously still like accruing legitimacy with players and fans and coaches and whatever. Like it's in its third year, so it's not necessarily reached that level of importance. I also think the fact that they play it so early in the season and the final is barely a quarter of the way through the season lends itself to it being forgotten and even dismissed entirely as like a achievement, mocked, I would even say, by many. So they've got to figure out how to like spread it out longer, I think, over the course of the season and make it more of an event. Like for example, the Knicks, whether they win or lose, let's say if they win tonight, like it should be like you should be able to celebrate it. Instead, if they win tonight, that's cool. They have to go on the road to play Indiana on Thursday, and they have a back-to-back on Friday against Miami, and then they play for whoever it is. I forget the order of games. I think they play Philly on Friday, and then Miami on Sunday. Like, that is stupid. Like, it's just like very dumb. Like, if you like, no matter who was in the final, right? You knew when the final was going to be. It was going to be on this day. This should be a thing where, like, it's a standalone date on the NBA calendar. So this final happens on this day. There should be no games for the 2 days after or something. Or the teams that are in the final should have their schedules reworked so that they get a legitimate break after they play this game. Because it's going to be a high-intensity game. It was a high-intensity game last year. I didn't watch the Lakers-Pacers one. I imagine that was a high-intensity game too. This is a high-intensity game. This is more than your normal average regular season game in terms of what it's going to take out of the players and what they put into the game. So I just think it needs to be more celebrated. And maybe that will happen over time with changes they make. And then to your point, it could become a thing that it's like, oh, like this was the first team to win the cup and the league, the championship in the same year. Like this is common in soccer where it's like you did the double. And it's like a celebrated achievement. That doesn't seem to be the case here. But maybe that's just because no team has done it. right? I'm sure if OKC had won the cup final last year and had won the championship, that would be a thing that people say. Like, oh yeah, this team defended like they won both competitions, or whatever you want to put it. Like, I think it would matter.
Can
But
I
in
ask
some
one other
ways, I
thing
feel
here?
like this is a. Sorry, say it again.
I wanted to ask if you can finish your point. I wanted to ask a follow up, but yeah.
No, I mean that was it basically.
Do you think it takes away? So it's a tournament, but it's spaced out, right? You have the games that are happening at different times and random games picked with the weird floors and all that. Do you think if they made it like at least the final eight or whatever, or the final eight, if they made it like a March Madness style, like you go to Vegas or something and everybody plays in the same place, yeah, you can make it like All-Star Weekend, right? You have release events around it. You can have some of these showcase events, dunk contest or whatever. Do you think that would help the event?
Well, first of all, dunk contest apparently. Let's just get rid of the dunk contest in any capacity ever.
Okay, but you
Because
know what I
it's a
mean.
joke
You
now.
don't want to. I would love a
Um,
one-on-one tournament. It
yeah,
seems
yeah,
like that
yeah.
will never happen. But like
No,
those kind of the
I
things,
think
like All-Star Weekend is a whole experience, right? So
yeah. All-Star Weekend sucks, but it's fun to go. But as far as the cup, I have a lot of thoughts on what they should do because I like the idea. I think the players seem to like it. They this is not just the players that are left in terms of the Knicks and the Spurs, but guys around the league have talked about it being a positive. I think it's incentivized them to care about stuff. Even if the fact that it's just because of there's money on offer, who cares? That's fine. That's good. If it gets guys to play competitively and hard more than they do in a normal random regular season game, like, yeah, I think that's a good thing. Personally, I think it needs to be spread out longer. I think the group stage should be much longer. I think you should make the group stage like, I don't know. There are what you play 4 group games right now. I think you could double that. I think you play 8 group games, make it a home and away for each team. I guess there's 6 games, right? You can play two. You play one team in a group twice. I don't remember the specifics here. I could be fucking wrong. But yeah, I would. I think expand the group stage and spread it out over the course of the season because it's nice. I think they had the right idea to get interest and get people interested in the NBA earlier in the season. This is definitely a good idea. Um, but I think you need to spread it out over the course of the season, expand the group stage, and then what I think should happen is quarterfinals can be, as they were this year on a home court or whatever. Um, but and I would even say the semifinals should not be like in a central location or anything. I think it should just be a home game for the Knicks at the Garden or a home game for OKC and fucking the worst place in the world. But the final, I think, should be the season ends, right? I think what you should do is we know they have the playing games and they have I think you could make a week out of the playing games, the NBA Cup final, and then let's say you do the playing games on Friday. You play the first playing games on Friday. And then you do the cup final on Sunday. This would be the weekend after basically the that the season ends. You can just make it an event. And I think that's what they need to do if they want to maybe give it more legitimacy. I also think that the stakes should be somewhat higher. What I would like to be seen done is I think the winner of the cup should get an automatic playoff berth. I think the winner of the cup should get to pick their opponent in the first round. And I think the winner of the cup should get to get automatic home court in the first round. I know that would introduce a lot of difficulties. The NBA can figure that out. For example, I think if you are let's say a team that's a lottery team. We haven't had this happen before, but let's say a lottery team won the NBA Cup. So let's just say, I don't know,
The
Blazers.
Wizards.
Who
What
are
if the
currently in a
Wizards
lottery
just
position.
shoot?
Sure,
pushing it?
fine. Yeah, let's just say the Wizards. Let's say the Wizards win it, and then they're in the playoffs now, and it's like, oh, like this kind of fucks them because now they're picked. No, I think your regular season record, wherever you ended up in your regular season record, those should be your draft odds. And guess what? If you were the 8th seed in the East and you now no longer have a playoff spot, that sucks for you. Or I guess then if you're the 10 seed, you would not be in the play-in game at this point, right? So the play-in actually becomes the 6, 7, 8, 9 teams. I just think there's a way to go about it to give it higher stakes and make it mean something, and still protect kind of like the integrity of the regular season and protect how these draft picks and all that type of stuff. That's what I think they need to do. Because I think if you have it at the end of the season, the cup final at the end of the season, before the playoffs, and if it's a week off, right? So it's still like, hey, if the Knicks and Spurs had to go to fucking Vegas or whatever, pick a central location to play this game on a Saturday night, but then they're not going to play another. They don't play. They don't. Their playoffs wouldn't start until the week after that. I think that's the way you would want to go about it. Now, how you make all that work with the calendar and what it require, I can't speak to that. But that's what I would like to see. I would like to see the winner of the cup get more than just an individual payment to each player and you get to raise the cup, right? I think it should matter. It should have impact on the team. It should benefit the team in a serious way because, I mean, let's just say this. Let's say the Knicks won the cup final, but then they have a slew of injuries in January and February, and now all of a sudden they're, scrapping for one of the top 6 kind of playoff spots. In this scenario, they'd be fine, right? Because it'd be like, well, it doesn't really matter. Like, we have the home court anyway in the first round. Do we really need to push it here? There should be a benefit to it. There should be a benefit to it. And again, like I said, you'd have to figure out how to manage all the draft stuff because you also don't want a team like the Knicks, let's say, to win the cup final. And then it's like, well, we have our pick this year. We may as well just suck ass since we're going to be automatically in the playoffs anyway. And, we can benefit on both ends of this. Like, you would obviously need to protect against stuff like that. So I don't have a fully fleshed out idea in that sense, but I do think those are the very basic things. Give it more stakes. Give the winner an into the postseason, on automatic into the postseason, and again, just spread it out and make the final like it's like a big deal. I mean, I think they've done a good job this year of giving the cup itself and these games, like a good kind of central focus, but it could still be more. It could still be more of a spectacle. It could still be more of like a celebration of the NBA in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I think the only thing we're doing at the end of the season is like if a team wins the cup and is a contender for the final, would they take it as seriously, right? Or would they rest guys? But I think the base things I would definitely agree with. So,
I mean, I think they would I think they would take it seriously just because, like, if you make it feel more important, and I think naturally towards the end of the season things feel more important, right? Like the final regular season games do make it like they feel more important than games you play in fucking late October and early November. I think if you make the cup final itself just like the standalone big thing, and it's like the kickoff right for the postseason, it can be a big thing. And I think, like, again, like I think the fact that if at least in my made up scenario, if you allow these teams to pick their opponent, that's kind of an incentive in and of itself, and it adds intrigue in both ways, right? Because it'd be interesting to see, like, oh, well, who does this team think their best matchup is? And then it's also like a motivating factor for the team they would pick, right? So I like that idea a lot. Wanted to get to this real quick. This is from Toon Coop Miners, Y2Z. He says on the side, assuming Kolek has a good game today, if he gets minutes, would that have a sway in the front office's decision on getting Alvarado? This is Jose Alvarado he's referring to. Stacy, thoughts?
No, I think Alvarado's a good player. um, there isn't much that Kolek could do unless he goes like full Austin Reeves or Linsanity that I think would give us pause. Um, look, the Knicks, I think, the Knicks need to add good players to their bench. That's a big part that I think we always get obsessed about. This is what we need. This is what we need. Can't play these guys together. We lost to Indiana because, in part, they just had 11, 12 guys that were playable, and they could pick and choose for different nights. And I don't even think if you trade for Alvarado, Kolek doesn't play, right? There might be certain matchups in which Kolek's skill set is better. I think if Alvarado costs more than Yabu and things they're willing to give up, then they won't do it. It's also why I don't think a DiVincenzo trade would happen, because I don't know why Minnesota would trade DiVincenzo if they weren't getting Deuce back, and I don't think that's worthwhile. So do I think that changes the equation? I mean, he would have to really be like 45 or something. And if they don't trade for Alvarado, and it is because of Kolek, I would imagine he's showing them enough in practice where they're like, nah, we want to roll with this guy, right? But I still think it's paramount to just add good players. Alvarado, we talked about it, right? Deuce being out takes away your only consistently reliable point of attack defender, right? And it's not like, and Shamet had health problems too. Bridges, you don't really want to use him there. Hart, you don't really want to use him there, even if you can. So Alvarado just gives you another. It's like having two press corners. It allows your safeties and your linebackers to do more. It gives you, when one is out, it gives you more. I don't think Deuce is an injury risk or whatever, but it gives you that. You can play them together, right? They both play bigger than they are. Deuce can guard a lot of twos. You can play them for the same reason. I think you can play Alvarado with Brunson. And those are things that, by the way, you can't say about Kolek or Clarkson. So, and especially with that identity, like, you can just add more dogs. Like, this is kind of the description I don't always like using because it seems to be limiting. And it's used, like, people called Alfred Payton a dog. I think Deuce is a dog in a way better way.
Well,
right?
Alfred Payton was a floor general, actually.
No, I think people use that, like, they'll say that about guys who like have the like Westbrook, especially later in his career, is a perfect example, right? He'll make some crazy diving play, and you're like, he has a dog in him. But then when he blows a closeout or when he gets blown by, you're like, where's the dog there, right? Deuce brings it on every play. To me, that's what matters. And Alvarado is that kind of guy. And even he's not going to cause spacing issues. I think he can create a little bit better than Deuce from what I've seen. And so I don't think this, like, if you're confident in Kolek, then you're confident in Kolek. I don't think that should preclude getting Alvarado anyway, because, and I'll speak to this in a second, because you want to just add good players. And if you're not sold on Kolek, I don't think a great performance tonight, unless it's really just insane, should change that. And why I think, well, Alvarado, you already have a lot of guards. Clarkson isn't cutting it. You'd say, well, neither is Yabu, and that's probably a bigger issue. Getting a wing or getting a big, even in this market, in this economy, Shwin, Trump is killing the big and wing market with his fucking tariffs. It's just, if you can, it's just easier to get a guard, right? I mean, say what you want about Cam Thomas, the Nets can't even trade him, and part of that may be his particular issues. But the market, if you want to add just a good player, you're going to have more success getting a guard than certainly a wing, but even a lot of these bigs, right? So looking at that, Alvarado just makes sense. And look, if he doesn't end up playing, or you probably didn't give up much to get him anyway, but you get another playable player for a team that isn't exactly the most durable, or isn't the team that's like a bunch of Cal Ripken Juniors. It makes sense no matter what. So,
I think, yeah, to your point, a one-off game, unless it's some, like you mentioned, also, like, it's some crazy performance, shouldn't really dictate what you're thinking as a front office about a decision that's more holistic. That being said, Tyler Kolek has had a nice little stretch of games to me. anyway, since he kind of got another chance back in the rotation due to injuries and stuff, I think he's played well. I actually really like that lineup with him, the wings and Karl Anthony Towns. I think that's looked pretty good. I like the lineup with him, two of the wings and two bigs. Like I think he's at least looking like a functional player in a lot of these different lineups. You can flat out say he helped turn the game around against Orlando. That little burst he had in the first half, that inbound steal, gets an assist. Like he played really good, and he made some big plays. I don't really worry about his defense that much. He's going to have limitations. We know what those limitations are, but they're individual limitations. I think his team defense, the reads he makes, the decisions he makes, how he executes, those are good. You don't see a lot of instances with him where it's like, well, where the fuck was he on that one? Or why is he over there? That's supposed to be his man over there. Like, there's not a lot of these mental breakdowns, which I think bodes well for him and is a good reflection on him. So all of that stuff is why I'm not going to call him. He's definitely not untouchable or anything, but I would bet that the front office probably feels better about him now than they did coming into the season, and that they wouldn't view moving him in a trade as just filler or something. Like, I think they would have an actual valuation of him, which, if you remember, like, this is also kind of where they were with Deuce McBride, and he was younger and all that, but a couple years into his career where he'd like not really played that much, there was an idea of like, well, maybe you should move him at the deadline because he's an expiring contract next year and yada, yada, yada. It's like, yeah, well, maybe with Tyler Kolek, like maybe there's an argument to trade him at the deadline, but it would probably require him to have value in and of himself to another team. And obviously then the return being something that the Knicks prefer. So, would they trade Tyler Kolek for Jose Alvarado? Maybe. I mean, I don't know. I think Alvarado's the better player. But again, kind of building on what you said, I don't actually think it's like it might be a problem in the playoffs because I do think size to some extent does matter. And if Alvarado is on if it's Brunson is going to play 40 minutes a night, how much are you going to play Alvarado with them? How much can you play three guards together? That's stuff that we've seen Mike Brown do a lot of so far early in this regular season. I don't think you have that luxury in the playoffs a lot of times. So that part is a consideration. But in the regular season, I wouldn't worry about having Alvarado and Kolek on the floor together or something like that, or Alvarado and Brunson or Alvarado, whoever. They can. I don't know that getting Alvarado means anything bad for Tyler Kolek at this stage. Because I think that the guy that you're actually kind of looking to get better minutes from, whether he can achieve it himself or, they bring in a guy like Alvarado in the trade market, is Clarkson. Like, he's the guy that's actually not playing well right now in that perimeter group. And that's where I think the minutes will come from. But I like what Tyler Kolek's done. I think he's done a nice job. Not fantastic, not some stud, not dominating games, but I think he's giving the Knicks good minutes. And if you're talking about getting through a regular season and using your bench, using your depth, like, that's what you want, right? You want guys that it's like, all right, well, if I have to go to this guy for a few games here, I've seen him do it. And he's been fine. And I'm comfortable with that. And I think Mike Brown is doing that. And I like the way that he's brought along Tyler Kolek. I think that he had him in the rotation to start the season, then he was out. But then he went back to him, and Kolek has responded well, and he stayed in the mix since. So, to me, that's good. And I will just say this flat out. I think we need to give Tyler Kolek some real respect and some credit, because a couple months ago, the Knicks were rumored to be bringing Malcolm Brogdon in to take his job, and Jordan Clarkson was here to take his job, and Malcolm Brogdon was pretty much dead on arrival in the preseason, so that didn't happen. And then, Clarkson has had nice moments. I actually kind of like him and have enjoyed his play at times more than I thought, but you can see that when it goes bad, it goes really bad for him. and he doesn't have a stable floor as a player. And quite honestly, I think Tyler Kolek's outplayed him over the course of the season. And I think, again, like I just think he deserves credit for he wasn't handed any of this stuff. He wasn't seen as some sacred cow of the organization. He's had to earn the minutes he's getting. He's going to have to continue to earn the minutes he's getting, earn the trust of Mike Brown. But everything he has right now, everything that he's getting right now from the coaching staff is stuff that he's had to earn. And I think he deserves a ton of credit for that because it did feel like a couple of months ago that the writing was on the wall for him. And instead, now we're sitting here talking about like, hey, should we have Tyler Kolek in the rotation for the Cup final? Are we sure we need Jose Alvarado because we have Tyler Kolek? Like it speaks well on what he's achieved so far this season.
Yeah, I would agree. I think he's shown out well. I think it's not like as many other young guys because you do wonder how high his ceiling is. And if Alvarado is cheap, but that's what I would have said. If you're getting rid of Clarkson or if you keep Cole, I wouldn't mind keeping them both. And I don't think they're redundant necessarily. So
yeah, I don't think they're redundant. HB Greg says, I joined late. I don't know if you guys covered this. How do you think the Knicks are going to handle Mitch? He looks a step slow in defense, and are they going to risk him walking the offseason since he's not signed? Mitch has definitely been slow. That's not questionable. He looks a step slow defensively, for sure. Weirdly enough, though, he's like having... I mean, he also can't make free throws anymore, which is kind of funny. Except when he has to actually shoot free throws, then I'm like, it would be nice if I had any faith in you to make this free throw.
What do you mean anymore, dude? He's never shot free throws.
No, but this is like it's reaching unbelievable. Like he's shooting. Yeah. He went like what? He went 2 of 4 or something at the line the other night, and he improved his free throw percentage to 22.2%. But weirdly enough, despite the defensive decline, he has the highest offensive rebound percentage of his career by a ton. He has a 28 offensive rebound percentage. That would be a single season best in NBA history, if I'm not mistaken. He's looked better to me finishing around the hoop this season than he did last year. And certainly even the year before when he came back from injury, I think he's looked better at just finishing around the rim. But the defensive thing is real. I mean, it is absolutely real. There's no question that he's not played to the standard that you expect of him on that end of the floor. And, how are the Knicks going to manage that? I don't know. I think it's very fascinating. It's a challenge for them for sure. Mitchell Robinson is a guy who can change playoff series, can win you playoff series. We've seen that. He's proven that. How much does that matter, though, if you think he's in decline and maybe you don't trust him to stay healthy moving forward because when has he ever stayed healthy? All those things are difficult, but like Mitchell Robinson is just, he's too good and has been too good for the Knicks for me to not. I'm just probably not going to trade that guy at the deadline. Like, obviously there's scenarios where you would, right? If team offers you some insane value first round pick, or it's part of a package for Giannis, or whatever the hell it is. Like, there are scenarios where you do it, but in most likely scenarios,
would you trade him for
the Knicks are going
for DiVincenzo.
No, I would not.
Yeah,
no, absolutely not. He's so much more impactful than DiVincenzo when he's right, and even with him playing poorly on defense, and
when he's right, is
of course. But even this year, when his defense has not looked great and whatever, like, he's still just a high impact player because he changes games. He's the best offensive rebounder in the sport. He creates these extra possessions for a team that's already dominant offensively. He requires teams to pay attention to him, even though he can't shoot and can't do anything with the ball, just because of that. Like, he changes games. He is an impact player on both ends of the floor. And I think that needs to be recognized. And finding guys that can do that at his price point is hard, and it's rare, and it's difficult. And, obviously you hope that the defense ticks up over the course of the season. It certainly has not been to the level that we expect from Mitchell Robinson so far this year. But I think he's earned the benefit of the doubt. I think he's earned the benefit of the doubt because we saw what he did last year when he came back. We have seen him be vital to Knicks playoff victories the last 3 years running, right? Against Cleveland, against Philly, against Boston, very notably last year. Like, he's been vital in these playoff series. How many guys you saying that about? That we're even talking about? Like, I love DiVincenzo. I love this year in the Knicks. I'm sorry, Mitchell Robinson is so much more impactful than that guy. Like, it's just not a question. And yes, you can tell me that, well, DiVincenzo is more durable, and I get that. That's not wrong. And if you're so uncomfortable with the injury risk that you'd rather swap Mitchell Robinson for Dante DiVincenzo, which I don't even know if that's on the table. Let's just say it was. Sure, I get it. I think that's a fine stance to take. But for me, I think the upside he provides, the dominance he can bring when he is right, that's much more valuable to me with where the Knicks are than some of the kind of trade packages that I've seen floated out there with him involved. Now, look, I also just think, I know this. I will not, and I would not do anything major to the roster. And I do think trading Mitch qualifies as something major to the roster. I wouldn't do that until much closer to the deadline. Now, let's say it's January 28th and Mitch Robinson's defense still looks shaky and slow and he can't sit. Like, then maybe at that point I would change my stance, because then maybe at that point I would feel, yeah, like, he's great, but if this is actually what he is on defense now, then and I, then there's the injury risk. And do I want to give him another contract? Like, maybe I just need to cash in now. Maybe that's what I got to do. But right now, I'm not even really thinking about trading Mitch. I'm not considering it. I wouldn't have phone calls with other teams talking about it constantly. If teams want to call us up about Mitch and make offers and whatever, I'm happy to listen. But I'm not actively soliciting offers. I'm not trying to dump him. I'm not trying to move him. Because I just think that guy, when he's right, he is so impactful. I mean, he's like a star level role player type of impact. And you don't get a lot of those. You don't find a lot of those guys around the league. And again, it also should be said, like, this is a player who has typically been able to play and translate his level of play to the playoffs. I'm not even making a joke here, but like with Hartenstein, that was the opposite, right? He was poor in the playoffs for the Knicks, relatively speaking, to what he was capable of doing in the regular season. And Mitchell Robinson has been a really fucking good regular season player for the Knicks. He's also been dominant postseason player for the Knicks in various times. Again, like that Boston series, he completely changed it. He completely changed the series just by existing. So, yeah, I mean, as far as the question's concerned from HV Greg, like, I don't know what the Knicks are going to do. I suspect they're going to hold on to him. I just don't see a trade that returns a player good enough that I would prefer over just betting on the health of Mitchell Robinson for the rest of the year. Can they come to a contract extension? Who knows? I think they've played this out with Mitch before, right? The first year before he signed this contract that he's on currently, they let him go into unrestricted free agency. They played out that year, and then they extended him before he ever actually hit the market. But maybe they'll do the same here, and I think they're comfortable with that.
Yeah, I would agree with that. He's it's interesting with Mitch, watching the Eagles as well. Like, AJ Brown will post these cryptic tweets when he has a bad game, but then like it still works out. But that's just, you kind of have to take that this is a little bit of an eccentric person. That's, I think, the other part of why I think a lot of people just want to get rid of Mitch. But yeah, I think that's a good point. Like, wait and see. We've seen him. This isn't the first year, right? Remember the year they missed the playoffs? He was really bad on defense when he came back from injury. And it took him a while to get back. But he did get back, right? So if you can anticipate that being there by April, you're not worried about all these other things. I think it would be good to have another big, because none of the Knicks bigs, Cat has had injuries, Mitch has had injury issues, even Hukporti has. Another guy, like, if it was Yabu, that would be ideal, if Yabu could be reliable to play at either position, but a kind of a 4 or 5 swing guy. who could, because I think they're good. They are really in practice center by committee, right? Just because of minutes restriction for Mitch, because Huck-Forty is not proven, and because Cat is playing two positions a lot of the time. So in that sense, I think you can load up on depth, but I think it was good defensive. I would even say I thought Mitch was very impactful in the Detroit series. He didn't play as much. We didn't start him, but it was very clear if you looked at Duran or Cade's ability to get in the paint. It was very clear, how much of a difference Mitch made. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see if have they confirmed whether he's playing tonight. I assume he is, but
Mitchell Robinson?
Yeah.
I don't think there's any reason to suspect he won't play.
Well, there are people saying they should rest him. But I think this will be his first matchup with Wemby. That's kind of exciting.
No, he played Wemby his rookie season. The game that Wemby had 40 or whatever, but Hartenstein started that game.
Was he out?
No, Mitch played that game.
Huh.
But yeah, I think to your point, the Knicks, or for Mitch, it's a good moment for him potentially. Maybe this can kind of get him started defensively. And look, I want to be clear. I also don't think I feel a little bit like we are holding him to the standard of what he has shown us at his best. And we're like, why aren't you doing that right now? And I think it's possible that he's taking it. I don't want to say taking it easy, but I think that he's pacing himself. The fact that he's still rebounding the way he has, especially in the offensive glass, the fact that I think looks more spry finishing around the basket than he did last year. That to me is like, okay, is he actually in athletic decline? Is he actually physically declining? Can he actually not move? I don't know. I just think maybe he is kind of cruising a little bit defensively. And even with that, I think he's had moments that are good. I thought he had moments against Orlando where he flat out helped change the game, right? I thought he had good moments defensively. I do think that, yeah, he's a little bit casual right now in defense. There were a couple of offensive rebounds that we conceded when he was on the floor to Orlando that were just a function of like Mitch didn't move. Mitch couldn't move, or Mitch chose not to move, whatever it was. So, that's where I'm at with it. I think that it's possible that he's taking it easy. And, I think, sure, like, could he have trade value? And sure, but like, look at his salary. Like, who are you getting at that number or less than that number that's better? And it's not just, oh, I like this player, but I think this guy makes us better in our quest to win a championship this year. Player X gives us a better chance this year than Mitch Robinson. I don't think it exists. At least it's not on the board. I mean, sure, if Dallas would be like, yeah, we'll trade you Cooper Flag for Mitch Robinson, sure, yeah, I'd do that. But we know that's not going to happen. It's not realistic.
They would never trade a white franchise centerpiece for a defensive big who's a great rebounder, right? That's never happened.
No, they would never do that. But yeah, like, I just think to me, it's very simple. The Knicks have 7 really good players. There's 7 guys that are for sure in the rotation, right? Brunson, when they're at full health. Brunson, McCall, OG, Cat, Mitch, Deuce, Hart. Those 7 guys. 100% of the rotation, no matter what. I think Shamit's basically a guy that's in the rotation when he's healthy. That's 8. Can they get Clarkson and Yabusele, quite frankly, have not hit. They have not hit the way that the front office was hoping for. Can they? I don't think the Knicks actually need to get to I don't think they should be trying to package some of their top 7 or 8 guys and get to a team and bring in something else. I think they need to find a way to upgrade the Clarkson spot, upgrade the Yabusele spot if those guys can't turn it around. Yabusele is he's been a massive disappointment. Massive being the operative word. No, like in all seriousness, he's been a really big disappointment, and there's no way to sugarcoat that. He's failed so far, quite frankly, in New York. Whatever the reasons may be, out of shape, not a good fit for the system, whatever the case may be. It's just a fact. Can he turn around? I hope so. Because if he turns around, that gives them the type of piece they need in the front court, right? A guy that can defend fours, play some five, spread the floor out, give you different looks. Like that would be great, but he hasn't delivered. And Clarkson has had some nice moments, but he's a roller coaster ride. Like any game can be, it can be anything. Sometimes he looks
Wouldn't
like
you have said the same thing was true with Payne?
I didn't like Cameron Payne, and I was happy we moved on from him, and that was fine. I mean, I didn't despise Cam Payne or anything. I just didn't really care about him.
It's fair to say
like,
Clarkson is kind of on that level, right? Payne level, a little bit.
I think it's
higher.
I think you could say that. I think you could pretty much say Cam Payne's was better than him last year. Like Cam Payne last year. And we'll see what Clarkson's season ends up, but it's better than what Clarkson has given us so far this season. But yeah, maybe he's also, again, he's a roller coaster ride. So this is kind of typical of his career. He'll have 5 games where he looks like, oh my God, this guy's like a really good 20-point per game scorer off the bench. And then other games where it's like, why is this guy on my team? And lately we've been getting more of the latter and less of the former. Maybe that switches back up. Like, as I said, I'm not in a rush to do anything trade-wise. Like with this team at all right now. I think it's smart given the Knicks' lack of resources and the limited pieces they can and should be willing to move in trade. I think it's better to wait. I don't think you need to be jumping the market and trying to get ahead of anything. I think you need to wait and see how things play out. Who knows? Like, right? NBA seasons are long. What if in a month from now we're like, oh, Yabusele's turned it around, and it's like, okay, well now we're good there. So it is interesting to me though that they've been connected now with Alvarado, and there has been not as much smoke about interest in bigs. Maybe that changes with as we go on here, especially again given Yabusele's struggles. But I do find that interesting. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. I'm just willing to be a little bit more patient with this group, in part because they've earned it. They've been really good, but also because I think with your lack of resources, you kind of need the market to come to you more than you need to go out and try and aggressively meet the market.
Yeah, I would agree. I think they're in a good spot right now. So these are all. It used to be we would have these kind of discussions, right, about starting lineup players, right, like Frank or Hardaway Jr. or whatever. And now we're like, how do we get our 8th or 9th guy to be slightly more optimal for a playoff series? So, I mean, they don't really have any unbeatable guys. So.
Yeah. And look, like I said, things can change. Who knows? Maybe in a month from now, we're like, oh, Tyler Kolek's actually, that's our Jose Alvarado. We're good. Like, we actually don't need a more perimeter guy. Or we actually, now that Kolek's at this level, we can trade for a different piece or whatever. Like, there's a lot of things that can change. And it's important for the team and for the front office to operate with some, I think, patience. Because this team is good enough that you don't need to be impatient, right? You don't need to kind of rush into anything. And to me, they're still in somewhat of a like fact-finding portion of the season, right? Like, yeah, of course they have an idea of what Mike Brown is as a coach. They know what his philosophies were. They obviously hired the guy. He's been around the league for a long time. We know that they interviewed him back when they hired Tibbs initially. But they need to, they're still they're up close, right? The first time that you're kind of dealing with this person on a day-to-day basis, understanding all the intricacies about themselves as a head coach in terms of Mike Brown. So like understanding that I think is vital to informing any decision you do make. Personally, I think given what I've seen of Mike Brown, it feels like another perimeter player that can handle the ball and get into the paint and do stuff like that. Feels like a little bit more in his wheelhouse than even what they were hoping to get out of Yabusele. So I wonder if that informs kind of their decisions with what move they can make at the deadline prior. But I don't know that for sure. And if I'm Leon Rose or Roy West or Brock Aller, I want to see a little bit more of Mike Brown and how he manages this team in a variety of situations before I kind of plant my flag on this is what we need to try to do at the trade deadline.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And, I think generally they've made the right decisions. I don't know if we're going to get an OG trade, and there isn't really a candidate for a Grimes trade unless McBride, is unhappy. But I think, things are pretty good. So, enjoy the Cup final tonight, and yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, the Knicks are good. They're good. Whether they win or lose tonight, the Knicks are good. So I'm not that pressed about that. And look, I obviously want them to win, but I understand where they are as a team. I think I have a grasp on it, and we'll see what they can do to address some of the holes that they do have moving forward at the trade deadline. But for now, yeah, they're in a good place, and I trust this front office. I think they've earned the benefit of the doubt. They haven't been perfect; they've made mistakes, obviously, but the body of work is unquestionably good, and we'll see if they can bring home some hardware tonight. Are you excited about the possibility of James Dolan lifting the cup and giving us a little speech?
It's the last team that I root for that hasn't won a trophy, so it would be cool. No, sorry, I guess Michigan basketball too. But it would. The excitement of James Dolan giving a speech. Is he going to play a solo with JD in the straight shot? I think it's always. You look at where they were, and people might say it's Mickey Mouse, but teams take it seriously, right? We were a great Wemby performance and a great Spurs performance away from what is the Vegas odds favorite for the finals. You can say the Knicks shouldn't be the favorite if you're a Detroit fan. Right now, according to Vegas, that's going to be the finals, Knicks and Thunder, and that almost happened. And generally, the teams that make it have been good teams, so it is an accomplishment, and it'd be pretty cool. After think back to that picture of David Fisdale smiling with the Knicks down 100-62 to the Bucks. Come a long way.
Yeah, it's we've definitely come a long way from the dark ages. By the way, for what it's worth, FanDuel now has the Knicks up at -3. So somebody somewhere likes the Knicks enough to move the
I gotta answer David Goodman. David Goodman asked, Stacy wasn't around for Michigan beating Seton Hall on the cheap foul call. That was literally 6 months before I was born or something like that. So, yeah. I guess I was, you gotta ask my mom if I was in her stomach. So, technically I was around, if you want to call it that. If you ask Ben Shapiro, I was around. So,
I was alive, but I have no recollection of that. So there's that. All right. What do you think? Are the Knicks winning tonight or not, Stacey? What do you think?
I'm gonna say no. I think San Antonio's playing really locked in. Like you said, I do think the Deuce injury matters a lot. And yeah, I will say it. We just have not had we have not had an answer for Wemby. So I'm gonna go with San Antonio.
I will. My mind is telling me Spurs, but my heart is saying Knicks, and I'm gonna go with my heart. I think they get it done. I don't know. I have a good feeling about Jalen Brunson. it feels like a good spot for him. I have a good feeling about Josh Hart. I don't know. This sounds so stupid to say, and it is bullshit. This is definitely not true, but I feel it in my bones, and I think like having these guys like Brunson and Bridges and Hart in this single elimination thing is like they've done it before collectively like those three have been in this type of situation, in this type of scenario, and won an entire tournament. You know what I mean? Like they've done that specific thing, those three together as a group. Does it actually matter? I mean, Stefan Castle won a national championship. Maybe I'm full of shit. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Something about that makes me feel good about how it happens. I don't know how they're going to do it. I do think the Spurs are challenging out for them. But I think they do it. I think they get it done. And yeah, I don't know. We'll call it 117 to 110. That'll be my prediction.
Whole ass touchdown. I see that. Who is Tyrese cheering for? Somebody asked that.
Tyrese is cheering for like the fucking. He's cheering for Luke Cornett. So he's cheering for. I guess we can answer this real quick. We're gonna wrap up with this one. Shwin, are you happy Moore is gone? Situation notwithstanding. This from HB Greg. Yes, the situation is obviously terrible and not what. That's not how. You don't want that for anybody, obviously. It's just a bad situation. Am I happy that Sherman Moore is no longer the head coach of Michigan football, though? Yes, I'm very, very happy that he's no longer the head coach of Michigan football because I think he was a terrible head coach who was not going to do anything and was basically the Michigan version of David Shaw. So, yes, I'm very happy he's gone.
Do you have a favorite amongst the people? I think DeBoer is everyone's favorite. Do you have anyone else that if they don't get DeBoer?
I'm actually not even that sold on DeBoer. I'm like a little bit concerned about him.
I feel the same way because like he's such a pass. It's not gonna be Rich Rod, but he's such a pass happy guy. And more than QB, like Michigan's O line has usually been not great at pass protection. Like they get these beefy guys. So like if he wants to go throw the ball 40 times a game, it's not even Bryce I'm worried about. It's can they transform the line to that? But
it also just doesn't make me feel good that like he left Oregon to go to Bama. Oregon's still really good.
Washington.
Bama has fallen off.
He left Washington.
Washington. Washington was still really good, obviously, the year that he or they were good last year anyway. The point is I don't know, something about going to Bama and then being bad. And it's like, I don't know, when an entire fan base wants you out, that doesn't necessarily mean they're right, because God knows I wanted Jim Harbaugh out for many years. But like it's just something about it is not, I don't know. It feels a little too like convenient for us, and almost it's like just so unimaginative. There's something to it that annoys me. But we'll see. I like Dillingham too. Maybe they'll get him. I don't think they will.
First time they had a head coach younger than me, so that would be
there
weird.
We go. All right, Stacy, anything you want to plug before we get out of here?
We had a good article by Max Wildstein on the Strickland this week, so I would encourage everyone to check that out. I'll plug everything else at the Strickland, but I'll particularly highlight that one. Max has written, I think this is his second article for us. So we focused on Josh Hart. Very interesting topic, and I thought he did a really good job. So definitely check that out.
Awesome. I will echo that. Max did a great job on his article. Everybody should go check that out, especially check it out before tonight's game. Josh Hart and Mike Brown, they've have a good relationship, and he's getting a lot out of Josh Hart, so it's good to see. All right. That is our show for today. Thank you to everybody for tapping in. Thank you for the comments, even all the mean ones about the state of our videos and how old we look. But yeah, go Knicks. Thank you to our sponsor, FanDuel. And I will see you all on Friday. Peace.